All right, good afternoon, everyone. Sorry for the small delay. This is what happens when you speak right after the boss. So let's get started. Um, I think there's an issue with my slides, probably. Excuse me, Brice. There's probably something wrong. Finally. Okay. Yeah, classic. When you have a bug, it only works when there's no dev around. Anyway, I will start without further ado with a question. My question is, what do these jobs have in common? So we have a janitor, a UX designer, and an air traffic controller. I give you a few seconds to try to come up with something. Here is what I found. You notice their jobs only when it is badly done. If their job is done nicely, normally you should not even notice it. You won't remark it. It's only when it's done in a bad way that you will see that there's something wrong here. Let's pick an example. If you have in a form a date picker like this, where you need to pick a specific date, for example, your birth date, if it looks like this, you probably won't think about it more than 2 seconds. You will fill it in and that's it, right? And you won't think about what you just saw. Now, if the date picker looks like this and we ask you, okay, pick your birthday, here, trust me, you will remember this form and you will think, damn, what the hell, that was really stupid. What happened with those? Because you will have to click something like 15,000 times on the -1 day button. So in that case, you would remark that something's off, right? So that's the idea. When the job is badly done, you don't really notice it. You just go through it. When it's good, you feel that something's right. But on the other hand, it needs to be really good for you to really remark that there's something. For example, if the hallways are cleaned, you won't think about the janitor. It will be like, yeah, the hallways are clean. I feel good here. I'm just going through the hallways and it's fine. If you having a flight, nobody applauds at the end of the flight to say, hey, thank you, air traffic controllers, we landed on time and we had no traffic on the tracks, right? But if you end up being really late because of them, then you will really think about them and notice that something is wrong in the way they work. It's the same for UX. It's the same when we design a product or software. The users are happy when everything goes right, but they don't really notice it and don't really think about it. However, if you fail at something, if you have something that's really badly designed, like the form that we just saw, they will think about you, and trust me, not in happy terms. So that was my goal here with the talk that we'll have here, the few minutes that we have here. I wanted to discuss a bit things that normally people don't discuss, to have a look at things that people don't see. You see that we have a ton of talks about big new features that do deserve this attention. I wanted to take a few minutes here to talk about things that we change and that you probably wouldn't notice, but that are part of the experience. When we say our users love to use Odoo, well, it's partly because of those changes as well. So let's have a look at what usually goes unseen. By the way, I call this talk a look behind the curtain because I will show you a few things that we did in R&D. My name is Luc Nellis. I work as a product owner on a bunch of apps. And so there's a few things that we did with my team and also some things that were done in other scopes. The goal will be to go through those. I mean, you know the drill by now. Here is the QR code if you need to scan it. And there's the title of my pad here below. You can just copy it. That's, again, another example, of course, to show you that probably you saw this slide a few million times by now, and you never really thought about it. Here, it was done in a really crappy way, so you thought, yeah, that's really done in a crappy way. Anyway, here's a real version. As always, if you have questions, you can just type the URL here or scan the QR code. If you're lazy like me, you can add a few questions, and depending on the time that we have left, we'll go through those. If we don't have time, you can always come at the booth, at the product booth, at the end of the hall. I'll be really happy to discuss all of those with you because it's a really great topic. All right, let's get started. Onboarding should be your top priority when you're creating a product, right? It's the thing that we have as our top priority at Odoo, and I really advise if you're a developer, a product manager, product designer, whatever, onboarding should really be the thing that you have. What's onboarding? Well, you have some users that are lost in the water, right? They're trying to swim, but they're not that good at it. And what you want to do is to onboard them, right? The word is pretty cool because it's really that. You try to onboard them, get them into your ship so that they can sail smoothly afterwards. But it's not that easy, right? Those first few steps are really tricky. What you want to do is to make sure that whenever someone does those few steps in your product, it goes as smoothly as possible. Because let's be honest, as human beings, we like the routine, we like being able to know everything about everything, we like the environment that we can control, right? So when we need to use a new software, it's really painful by default, right? It's new, we don't know how it works, and it can be really frustrating. When the computer refuses to do what you have in mind, it's really annoying, and you feel really powerless. What we want to do is not to get our users in that state. It should be the opposite. When they test your software and spend a few minutes with it, they should feel like superheroes. They should feel like, wow, this product gives me superpowers. With this, I feel like a better version of myself. And it's tricky because for now, they don't master your product yet. They're just discovering it. But they should already feel that there's this potential of, oh wow, this is actually something that makes me a better version of myself because, for example, I can send more quotes quickly, they look nice, etc., etc. And for us as a company, as Odoo, it's crucial, right? Because we have a lot of users that are trying Odoo, not with a consultant, not with the support helping them, not with a demo. They are trying out Odoo on their side, right? There's a few people maybe in this room that never used Odoo, and after a few beers tonight, they will go home and they will say, all right, let's give it a shot and see how it works. And they will create a trial database and play around. The goal is we want to make sure that this experience is as smooth as possible because in those few minutes, they will decide, okay, Odoo is a great software, I should look into it and possibly implement it, or I did not get anything about this product, it's really not clear, I will forget about it and go for something else. So for us, as product owners, trials are really the moment where we can show what the product can do. But we have a really, really small time window to do it. So the first few steps, as I said, are the moment where you can actually do it. And this is why we focus so much on ease of use, right? If Odoo was a software that was extremely complicated and tricky, all those people trying out on their side would completely be lost, and after a few clicks would say, all right, that's not for me. It's the opposite. We want Odoo to be something that they get straight away, and where they understand, okay, this is for my business, I'm an SME owner, I'm not a developer, I'm not a consultant, but I can actually see what it does, and with a bit of time, I'm sure I can do something great with that product. So since we don't have that much time, what I decided to do is to just pick 10 ideas that we did, 10 things that we did in Odoo 18. The goal is to maybe, if you're a product designer, a manager, if you're a developer, maybe spark some ideas, showing you things that normally you wouldn't possibly remark, so that maybe it gives you ideas to go back to your product and work on your own onboarding and make it better, because that's really the most crucial part of your product. When we add a new feature really specific in accounting, deep down in some flows, it's cool for a few customers here and there, right? They're happy with it. But for the majority of the people that try it out, it won't change their experience at all. So our focus in R&D is mostly to make sure that whenever someone tests Odoo, they get what it does. This is a few things that we did to make sure that it happens as smoothly as possible. First one is something we do in Knowledge that I find really cool. For those that don't know it, Knowledge is an application that basically serves as your internal documentation system. And it's really cool because we can have an onboarding where we explain what the app does by actually using the product. So we can create some documentation in the documentation system that teaches you, okay, this is Knowledge, this is what it does, try it out. So I don't know which product you're working about. Maybe it's a task management system. Well, how about making a few tasks in the task management system that helps you understand how the product works? It's an idea you could use, and it's really cool because it's already integrated. So here, when the user reads that and ticks a few boxes and checks the video, is doing the onboarding, but also trying out a few features as well. Okay, another possibility, something that you showed we saw during the keynote this morning, the website snippet categories. Why are we doing this? Well, because we have a lot of customers that hears, oh, Odoo actually can help you make your own website, your company website, and the websites look really good. The thing is, creating websites that looks good is actually a job, right? We have people that do studies to do that and make a living out of it. So if you just drop any random snippet, it will look like a mess, right? So what we do here is we help the customers make sure that they do get something that looks good. And this is why the categories are so interesting. The user that's discovering Odoo is not thinking, oh, I need a banner with this dimension and this color and this. He just wants a banner. So if we have an intro and then he can pick something that looks good for him, well, it's already quite a good step because we are making this user feel really good about themselves because all of a sudden, they're pretty good at designing websites because this looks pretty good out of the box. So we just split a bit, we remove some of the difficulty by providing results that are already ready for you to use out. Okay, something that also should really get a lot of your attention as a product designer, even if maybe it's something that gets ignored far too many times, are your empty screens. So when users use a software for the first time, usually they don't have any data. It's just empty, it's an empty database. And those screens where it's empty are the perfect opportunity for you to actually showcase a bit what the product can do. Here it's really subtle, but by just changing the picture that says no transfer found and including a zebra pistol scanner, they're already telling to users, by the way, you can use Odoo with this pistol scanner, and they don't have to write it out. Only this small image in the empty screen actually already makes you know, okay, there's actually something I could explore here that could be interesting. Something else, if we go a bit further, in appointment, we did something similar. We know that when someone tries Odoo and try appointments, what they want is not to spend hours playing with the different settings. What they want is to see the online calendar ready and to think, wow, I could publish this calendar and actually get meetings without having to send emails to everybody. So what we do is, through those, you can click on any of those options that we prepare, and we have a configuration ready for you out of the box. It works directly, and then if you want to tweak it, change the schedule, change the title, etc., you can do it. But in just a few seconds, we went from that person does not know about appointments, how it works, and is not ready to have a calendar published, to actually there's already something working out. They could start working with that. It also shows a bit what the app can do. Without having to read all those options in the forms, we see that we can do video call, table booking, and we can make people pay for the bookings that they take. Again, we're just using a screen that normally would be empty because there's no data to show because it's a new database. Okay, we go a bit further. Marketing automation, for those that know it, is an app that's quite complex. You can do many, many things with it, but you have to know how it works, and it gets quickly a bit technical. So how can we show to the users in just a few steps what it could do to show at least some sort of potential and get their interest? Well, we can prepare templates. That's what we did here. We have templates for marketing, CRM, e-commerce. They're all here, and you can just load one and just get started. We know that it's not something they will use in production out of the box. It's not that relevant, and they will want to customize the content. But at least we're showing, all right, here is an example of a campaign. You could have this step, and then wait for a few days, and then have this step, and those filters, etc. It's a screen here that we added for every new campaign, because even advanced users might need a bit of help when they're creating a new campaign to at least have an example of what can be done. Okay, we talked about this idea of making the user feel like a superhero. Well, anything you do to increase their productivity will help. So for example, instead of asking them to handle their activities one by one, which would be quite tedious, when you tick multiple activities, you see that we have those buttons at the top to mark them as done, cancel them, or snooze them. All those abilities that you provide to batch operation and to do multiple things at a time will make your user feel like, oh wow, that's actually pretty cool because I do have a lot of activities that are late and I wish I could just cancel everything or snooze everything to just get a clear overview of what I have to do. Technically, it's not a big feature. It's probably something nobody will talk about, but it's there, and once you need it, you will see it appear, and it will be quite helpful. Okay, something else for those that know knowledge. So we have two modes in an article in knowledge. We have the narrow mode, where we try to squeeze the text for it to look as good as we can, and then we have the larger mode. The problem that we had when we were looking at user tests were that users were always adding a lot of content in the very narrow mode, and they were adding some views in the narrow mode, and it would really look really cramped, and it was really painful to use. So what we did now instead, and it's working fine in the new test that we're doing, is that whenever someone inserts a large view in the article, we switch for the user the article into the large mode. It's something they could do manually, but they just wouldn't find the option, and they were just leaving thinking, well, it's not that practical because the screen was really small. Now we change it for them. Again, not a huge technical change, it's actually quite easy to do, but in terms of experience, it completely changes the feelings they will have about the app. Okay, still about marketing automation. Marketing automation, so basically you will set up different activities with different triggers, etc. As I said, it's tricky, and the stakes are pretty high because you are potentially going to send emails to tens of thousands of contacts, so you better be sure of what you're doing. Sometimes, as product designers, we try to make sure that we get as few things on the screen, and so we just had a few options, a few fields, and we say like, yeah, they will get it with this information. We decided to do the opposite for this here, because we think that they need to be reassured about what Odoo will do with their configuration. So that's why we have now this summary on the right that explains in plain English what will happen with your configuration. Again, it's not a technical prowess, right? To do this, it was actually pretty simple. Those are calculated sentences. But when you read that, you get, okay, this is my configuration does. That's actually what I want. I can save it and launch it. And you feel much better than when you're stressed out because you're not sure of what Odoo will do because you only have a few fields and options. And for example, the cancel after 5 hours, we were seeing that user really had no idea about what this was about. So now that we explain it in a full sentence, they get it and they're able to use it. Okay, something else. As we said, we want to avoid all the moments where the users feel stupid. And it's happened all the times. Whenever we try something new, we think, damn, I'm stupid, I cannot find this, I cannot do this. Something that happened a lot in Odoo is you're looking for a record and you just cannot find it. You're looking everywhere and it's just not there. Why are you not finding it? Because it's been archived, but you don't know about it. If you're really advanced, if you have used to it, you will know that you need to add a filter active is equal to false. But that's pretty technical and you need to know about it. So what we do to spare the users all those headaches is that we had an option here, a small toggle that you can see there, include archived, so that we tell to the users, hey, by the way, there's some records that have been archived, that's maybe why you're not seeing them. Again, not a huge development, but something that makes sure that you're not looking during hours for something that's been under your nose. You just tick that by default, thinking, yeah, wherever my record is, I just need to find it, and it will appear. In the CRM, for example, it's really relevant because when we lose a lead, we mark it as lost, and so it's archived and it just disappears for the campaign. So we see a lot of user tests where they mark a lead as lost, and then they lose it forever, and they'll check in every app, in every menu, looking for it. Now, with this menu, we can catch this sort of mistake and make sure that they find it easily. Something else. I think that it's not just me, it's something that we like to do as a general, as product designers, as developers, etc. We like to come up with rules, right? We like to create a system and to say, okay, those are the rules, this is how it should be used. Sometimes the issue is users have other ideas about what you just did. And in appointments, for example, we had some rules that we had decided because we were sure that there was a right way to use it, where if your appointment type was with a specific configuration, you could only have one user assigned to it. And it's something it's not a problem that we needed to overcome, it's not a technical limitation, it's just a rule that we came up with out of the blue. During the test and through the feedbacks, we saw that users were annoyed with that. We just removed this constraint. This was just a technical constraint. You see just a validation error. So someone had written, you cannot do it. We remove that, and all of a sudden, we have quite a few more use cases that are opened, and users are not blocked with Odoo telling them, no, you cannot do it just because we decided so. Okay, so that was the first 10 points that we had. I don't know how it is for you, but usually when I explain what I do for a living, and when I explain, yeah, I'm working on a software, and the goal is to make it as good as possible, I already got the questions quite a few times of, all right, but at some point, aren't you done? Isn't software finished? And it's really tricky to explain. Actually, no, it's never finished because we always have new things to do in terms of features, but also polishing again and again and again all the different screens and fields and options and buttons. And as a final tip, to close this presentation, I would advise you to really make sure that you challenge everything. As soon as your software gets a bit complicated, you have buttons, you have fields, you have models, you have pop-ups, you have options. There are things that you just consider that they're okay like this, but actually they're not. So let's take an example. This was the error message that was appearing in Odoo 16 where you were trying to delete a record. So it's not really an error message, it's just like a confirmation model, right? And we were asking the user, okay, are you sure you want to delete? Let's see how we can make this better. First, what's the point of this title? Confirmation. What does it mean? What are we going with that? Not really a clue, it's not really useful. Now, next, the body of this message. Are you sure you want to delete this record? Well, the user just clicked on delete, so that's what they have in mind. So if you just ask them twice, they will say, yes, I just asked for this. You don't provide any extra information, I don't see why they would change their mind. And then you have the buttons, which I think is the worst. Are you sure you want to delete this record? And the button says, okay. Like, who answers okay to this? It's like, are you sure? Yeah, okay. And we have a lot of okays like this in Odoo, and we try to remove as many as we could because it doesn't make any sense. And if all you read when you scan the screen really quickly is okay, of course you're going to click on okay. You don't need to read the rest. You just click on okay and leave me alone and let me work. So how can we do it better? First, let's use the header to actually provide some content and some context on, okay, this is what you're trying to do. Are you sure? Potentially, the title is the only thing they will read, right? If they're really in a hurry, they will just read the title and then consider, okay, do I need to read the rest or not? So we need to say in a specific way, okay, this is what you're going to do. Then in the body of the message, we should ask ourselves, as product designers, why are we asking for a confirmation? Why is it so important to make sure that they are certain that they want to delete this record? The reason is, well, because the action cannot be undone. Once you delete this, it's gone forever. Well, we should tell the user that, because that's the reason why potentially they would change their mind. They're maybe deleting it without really thinking about it. When you say, okay, be sure because it cannot be undone, chances are they will say, oh, yeah, my bad. If it's really cannot be undone, maybe I'll think a bit more about it. And then we have the buttons. Let's use buttons that actually say what they will do. Let's use buttons that are action-oriented, not okay or yes, but actually send this email or delete this record or confirm the order. If it's just okay everywhere, it doesn't make any sense. So this is the structure of what we would like to get. Now here is what we have in Odoo 18. It looks like this. So bye-bye record, and then you have the rest below, and with the buttons that we already used. What we added on top of what I had written down is that we wanted Odoo to feel like a software that was friendly and close to the users. So we wanted to avoid having a tone that would be too formal or too serious, to really have something light and fun. But still, we had to communicate to the user, it will be gone forever, so really think about it. I think it's a good example that really shows how you can go into every screen, every text, every copy that you show to the users, potentially they deserve a bit more attention than they currently get. Of course, nobody's going, except me maybe, is going to make a talk about this model because it's not worth a lot of showcases, but this, added with all the other things that we showed, makes the experience far better and makes people understand better what they're doing and makes them feel better about themselves. And when they use Odoo, they don't feel like people that are really stupid and cannot get anything done. On the opposite, they feel super productive, they feel in control, they feel like they're mastering what they're doing. And this works also for new users. You don't have to be really advanced to make this work. Okay, well, I'm actually done, so thank you very much for your attention. We have some time for the Q&A left. So again, I didn't have the spinning QR code, but it's still here with the pad. And yeah, let's go through the questions with the time we have left.
Okay, well, thanks. Is this on? Yeah?
Yeah.
Thanks for the talk, Luke. That was super interesting. We have a lot of questions here and not very much time. So, number one, this is a good one. So someone is on Odoo 14 and they're planning to upgrade to the new version, but the big UI changes are very scary. And I think that this is true that UI changes a lot in Odoo. So what kind of advice do you have to manage or retrain users on these UX changes or UI changes?
Yeah, I mean, as we said, it feels like a change, and change is scary by default. But if we change things, it's because we know, or at least we are sure that it will make things better. So I would really give it a real shot. And trust me, inside the company, whenever we change something, there's a lot of debate around, is it a good idea or not? Usually with time, we see that the debates that we had were not that needed, because actually it does work, as it has been done.
Good answer. Another one is there a UX or UI design manual at Odoo, within Odoo, that could be made available or could be taught or published? So custom modules can follow the same standards.
Well, we have the Odoo framework, right, that already has quite a few rules and structured information, and we think it should be structured. You have the Odoo brand guidelines that also show how we do things with the logo, the style, etc. Now, we do have, I'm sure our designers have their own design system with everything, right, Stefano? But we don't have like a clear, I mean, I don't have a white paper that I could show you, but as I said, just be curious, explore a bit what we do in the standard apps. There's a reason why we do it like this, and it could give you ideas for your own modules.
Nice. Last question. Okay. Last question.
Pick a good one.
Last question. How do you align several product managers working on the same product but on different apps to get a consistent user experience in Odoo?
That's a tricky question. I would say one of the things, so we have the Odoo framework, right? The way the forms, the lists, the Kanban views, etc. are designed. Now, we don't, on the other end, force ourselves to always be consistent across all the different apps. Because all the apps are different, the needs are different, the users are potentially different. So we put the business need first, and as long as it's something people can actually use, we're okay making tweaks, for example, in the CRM that you wouldn't see in other apps. Now, of course, we work together. We have a team of designers. We have a lot of product owners that can exchange good practices, etc. We do a lot of user testing, but we don't have like absolute rules of like a list should always look like this. If you want to do something different because it's relevant for the scope or your business, the business case you're trying to solve, then you can go for it.
Can we ask one more?
A small one, okay.
This one I think is really, really interesting is, do you recommend customizing the UI of Odoo? Like for a partner or someone who wants to make it more localized to a certain market, would you recommend doing customization changes to Odoo's UI, or should you leave it alone?
I think it's another question I can answer with yes and no. It all depends on what you have in mind. If you want to mix everything, you really need to have good reasons for that. Now, if you want to make sure that people that read from right to left have some better comfort from specific flows, yeah, sure. I mean, it makes sense. And you can even send us a feedback. We'd probably be happy to do it. So it really depends.
Okay.
Okay, if you want to discuss those, I'll be at the product booth, so marketing at the end of the hallway. I thank you very much for your attention. I hope it was useful, and you'll go back to your product and hopefully make it better. Thank you.